To get started, you would need the following measurement: your waist measurement, your hip measurement, waist to hip measurement, waist to knee, and the full length of your skirt. So guys, I've gone ahead to mark out my lines, and I have my waistline at the topmost part of my pattern paper. That is my waistline. I'm just going ahead to indicate that it is my waistline. I've also marked my hip line, which is 8 inches from my waist, and I have my knee line. My knee line is 18 inches long. It is usually between 17-18 inches. I included the knee line for better fitting along the knee. Then I have the full length of the skirt, which is 38 inches. That is what I'm working with. So guys, to get started, the very first thing I'm going to do is on the waistline, I am going to place a quarter of the waist measurement I am working with, which is 9.5. Afterwards, I'm going to add my 1 inch dart allowance. I want to use 1 inch for my dart, and I will also add 1 inch for my seam allowance. So on this pattern, I have already included my seam allowance. Thereafter, on the hip line, I'm also going to place a quarter of the hip measurement, 11.5, and 1 inch seam allowance. I'm going over to connect my waist measurement to my hip line with my pattern master. I'm just creating my hip curve right over there. So once I'm done, I would move straight ahead to my knee line. And for my knee line measurements, I'm going to be measuring what I have on my hip line, which is 12.5, and I am going to be deducting 1 inch from that 12.5, which is 11.5. So on the knee line, I will mark 11.5 and then connect it with a straight line. Afterwards, I will also move ahead to the full length, and on the full length, I would be duplicating what I have on the knee line, which is 11.5. On the full length line, I'm going over to mark 11.5, and also on the seam allowance line, and then I would connect it with a straight line. So guys, if you look at this pattern, it is pretty much a basic skirt block. Now let us proceed. From the center front, I would mark in my dart, and to mark in my dart, I'm going to measure 4.5 inches away from the center front, and then take ½ inch on both sides. Since my seam allowance is a total of 1 inch, thereafter I'm going to be marking 5 inches as the length of my dart. Afterwards, I'm going to be connecting it with my straight ruler. Once I'm through with that, I'm going to mark my dart measurements, which is 4.5 on my waistline. I'm going to place that same measurement on my hip line, and also place the same 4.5 on my knee line, and also on my full length. Remember, we are going to be spreading this pattern to achieve the 6 pieces effect. Afterwards, I'm going to be connecting all of those points with my straight ruler. So guys, on that line that I marked through my dart, I'm going to be indicating that I am to slash that line. So I'm just putting a scissors figure to indicate that I'm supposed to slash open this line, and I am indicating that this is my front pattern, and this right here is my center front, and I have my side front. It is very important to label your panels so you do not get confused. But before putting my front panel aside, I'm going to be coming down by 0.75 from my center front. This is for proper shaping and to eliminate any gaping in the front of a skirt, and I'm going to be getting rid of that part whereby I am marking. So guys, this is all for the front. I am going to put the front aside now, and we are going to proceed to the back. For the back guys, I have gone ahead to draft a basic skirt pattern for the back. I have my waistline at the topmost part of my paper. I have the hip line, my knee line, just like I have for the front, and the full length of my skirt. I've also gone ahead to do my bump illusion and the back tightening at the back. For this tutorial, for these effects, these techniques that I did, I have a detailed tutorial on how to draft a basic skirt block for both the front and the back, and in that tutorial I explained how to carry out bum illusion and also back tightening properly, and also how to prevent zip bulge at the back of the skirt. I'm going to be putting a link to that video in the description box. Now to move ahead, on my waistline right from the center front, I'm going to be marking 4.5 inch and take half inch for my dart. I would also be taking 6 inches for the length of my dart, and then I'll connect all of those points together. Once I'm done with that, just like I did for the front, I would measure 4.5 inch on my hip line, place 4.5 inch on my knee line, and also place 4.5 inch on the full length, and then I'm going to be connecting everything, all of those points together with a straight line, just like I did for the front. So guys, this is what your back pattern should look like. I'm going ahead to mark my center back and my side back. I'm also going ahead to indicate the region that is my zipper allowance. Like I said, it is very important to number and label all of your panels because we're going to be slashing this through, and in order not to get confused. So I'm going ahead to cross-check my measurements to be sure that they are complete and accurate before I slash open my panels through. Once I'm done cross-checking, I'll go ahead and trim off my back pattern. So guys, this should be the outlook of your back panel. Now let us proceed to spreading our various panels. To spread open the panels, the very first thing we're going to do is to slash open that line that runs through the dart. So I'm going ahead to slash open for the center front, for the front pattern rather. So I'm slashing through that line, and I'm going to be separating my patterns into 2 separate patterns. So I'm going to be having the center front separately and the side front separately. So this should be your panels when you're done slashing through. I will put the front part aside and also repeat the same thing for the back. To spread the panel, I have gone ahead to place my center front on a plain pattern paper, one that I have not used. I would also go ahead and remark my lines. I have my hip line, my knee line, and then since this is the center front and I am cutting on fold, I'm going ahead to indicate that I am cutting this on fold, so I will not be spreading that side. What I will do next is to place my panel on a fresh pattern paper and make sure my knee line aligns with the edge of my pattern paper, and then I'll go ahead and tape it down. I'm only spreading this part of my panel. I am not spreading the parts that I will be cutting on fold. The next thing I'll do is to extend my hem line just like I'm doing, and afterwards on that line that I extended, I will be measuring 3 inches. This is how much spread that I want. I will go ahead and connect from my knee line up until that 3 inches spread. But bear in mind that 3 inches is not a standard. You could spread by 4 or 5 depending on how much volume of spread that you want. From that edge over there, I will come up by ½ an inch and then use the curvy part of my pattern master to create a curve because I don't want the end of my panels to be pointed. Once I'm done with that, I am going to be cutting out this panel. So in essence, we have already spread the center front, and then we will be proceeding to the side front. So this is what the center front will look like, and then I'm indicating I'm supposed to add seam allowance to that region. There's no need to add seam allowance to the center front since we would be cutting on fold. For the side fronts, guys, I've gone ahead to place my side front panel on another pattern paper, and I'm going to be spreading on both sides of my side front, unlike the center front. The next thing I'll do is to tape it down, making sure that my knee line aligns with the edge of my pattern paper. Afterwards, I'm going to be extending the hem line just like I did for the front, the center front. Then I'm going to be marking 3 inches on both sides. I want my spread to be uniform. You know, I said 3 inches is not a standard. Then I'll connect from my knee line up until that 3 inches extension that I marked. From the edge of my spread, I'm going to be coming up by half an inch, and then I would use my pattern master to create a curve. I would do likewise for the other end of my curve. Once I'm done with that, I'm going to be cutting out my panel. So guys, once I finished for the side front, I also went ahead to spread my side back, because it's also the same way I spread the side front. And then we are going to be focusing on the center back that has the extension. For the center back, which is the main domain of this pattern, I'm going to be placing my center back panel just like I did for the other panels, and then I'm going to be taping it down with my masking tape. I will go ahead and extend my hem line just like I did for the other panels. So guys, I'm going to be carrying out the extension on the zipper region, so I would go ahead and relabel and remark that part so that I do not make a mistake. Then I would spread the other side normally like I did for the other panels. On this side, I am going to be marking 3 inches, which is the amount I used for the other spread. So on that hem line that I extended, I would mark 3 inches and then connect to my knee line. Once I'm done with that, I'm going to be extending my center back line. I'm going to be coming downwards by 2.5 inch. This is not a standard. You could come downwards by 3-4 inches, but just know that the more you come down, the more the fullness, the more the spread. I just want a moderate fullness. Then I would square it down, and on that line, that extension, I would go ahead and mark my 3 inches spread. Afterwards, I'm going to be connecting from my knee line up until that 3 inches that I marked downward. So guys, I have connected from my knee line up until that extension. The next thing I'll do is to connect both of those spreads together with my straight ruler. That is what I'm doing currently. And so this is going to be our tail or our extension, however way you choose to call it. Thereafter, I'm going to be going upwards by half an inch on both ends of my spread in order to avoid pointiness, and then I'm going to be using the curvy part of my pattern master to create a spread. So if you look at this panel now, you would see that it is already creating the shape of an extension at the back, and the more you spread, the fuller the extension at the back. I'm just going ahead to trim off my pattern, and this is going to be what you're going to have for your center back. And you can see the back tightening that I did, the way it cinched the back. So imagine cutting out this pattern, the kind of fit you're going to get is going to be marvelous. So I'm going out to indicate that I am supposed to cut 2 pieces, and I am also indicating to add seam allowances to join all of my panels together. So guys, this is going to be my side back, and then I have my center back. I'm also indicating that I'm supposed to cut 2 pieces of my side back, and I am indicating to add half an inch seam allowance to the parts whereby I am going to be joining to my center back. Remember, we already added 1 inch seam allowance to the side right from the pattern. So guys, this is how I draft my 6 pieces skirts with tail extension at the back. If you have learned something new from this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please make sure you subscribe. Also feel free to like and share, and until my next video, goodbye.